Hi, I'm Daniel, I'm a sleep physician, and if you want to sleep amazingly well, this channel is for you. Extra excited today as we have a success story to share. Samuel wrote me back in January where he was plagued by obsessive thoughts about not being able to sleep at bedtime. Now he's sleeping great, primarily using ACT. Hey there, hope you're doing very well today. Sorry about that. And again, very happy to have this success story share. I'm super grateful, Samuel, for you sharing this, and anybody else that hears this, if you're doing well, a couple of months from today or a year, please let me know. These success stories are so important, giving people hope. So let's check out this email that I got in January of this year. I actually had connected with Samuel back in December, when he was afraid of how he had read that you can go crazy if you don't sleep, you become psychotic. He was afraid of that, and then he came back a few weeks later with this email that we're going to look at now. By the way, there are several episodes where you can hear me talk. We can hear replies to Samuel. One of them is Insomnia Insight number 288, but the other from around that time period that you can check out. Now, let's read this again from January, where Samuel wrote the following. This is Samuel again. I'm feeling really frustrated right now, and I really just need to talk about it. I couldn't sleep at all last night. This was the first truly sleepless night in a while. Also, the past couple of weeks, for most part, I've been sleeping well with only occasional poor nights of sleep, so that's a good thing. As you can see, I'm trying my best to be positive, but I just can't help feeling frustrated. I feel like as soon as my head hits the pillow, even on good nights, I start experiencing the following thoughts. There are three of them. Number one, irrational, OCD-like thoughts. For example, I thought that my sleep mask was upside down or crooked, so I have to keep adjusting to convince my brain it's okay. Another thought would be that I don't have enough sheets on my side of the bed, so I keep checking just to make sure they're enough. Number two, fear of not being able to sleep. This fear can get even worse on Sunday nights, where I know I have to drive to work the next morning. Number three, a moderate fear of falling asleep. Yes, sometimes I feel fear because I don't want to become unconscious for 7 to 8 hours. And then a little bit later on here, how can I get to the point where the above thoughts no longer plague me when it is bedtime? So that was again in January. And then fast forward a couple of months here, and we get to this email that came in 3 days ago. Here. Dear Daniel, this is Samuel. It's been a few months since I've last emailed you. For the past 3 to 4 weeks or so, I've slept perfectly fine for the most part. I think I could attribute my better sleep to two different things. You heard that? Perfectly fine. That's amazing. Number one, learning the concepts of ACTI from the Sleep book by Guy Meadows. This book right here. Since I was already familiar with the concept of mindfulness and have practiced it through meditation, not to force myself to sleep, but because I enjoy meditation and the positive benefits it's introduced into my life, I decided to buy this book as it seemed right up my alley. Guy Meadows explains how to apply the concept of mindfulness to insomnia. He teaches you how to gain separation from your thoughts and emotions so you don't get swept away by them, and to essentially learn how to accept them. I noticed that after practicing what he teaches in the book, my obsessive thoughts about insomnia have not caused me as much suffering or frustration. And I found that since frustration lessened, my ability to relax in order to sleep has improved. Number two, learning about the concept of dullness in meditation. To further my meditation practice, I've been reading a book called The Mind Illuminated by Jon Yates. The book has been a valuable resource in allowing me to improve my meditation sessions. I noticed that one of the things that I struggled with in meditation was that I often would accidentally fall asleep. I then figured out my problem when the book introduced a new concept that was foreign to me called dullness. In essence, dullness is defined as how aware you are in the current moment. It's basically a spectrum. If you aren't experiencing any dullness, you're fully aware and alert. Subtle dullness is when you're lightly relaxed and comfortable, such as if you're relaxing at the beach. Strong dullness is when you're very relaxed, almost half asleep. This is a stage where you start experiencing hypnagogia. Maximum dullness is when you're actually asleep. One of the goals in meditation is not to have any dullness, as you want to experience the present moment in its fullness, to be completely mindful. If you're experiencing some dullness, then it's likely to become progressive and become stronger and stronger until you actually fall asleep. In contrast, dullness is not progressive when you're awake during the day because you're constantly receiving new stimuli that keeps you awake. But then I thought about dullness in the perspective of insomnia. More or less, people fall asleep by moving towards dullness. In other words, by losing awareness through relaxation and letting go. People don't really have to do much to sleep because dullness will naturally become progressive until it ultimately leads to sleep. If you try hard to fall asleep, then trying acts as stimulus, which moves you away from dullness. This is because trying too hard leads to self-monitoring, which leads to increased self-awareness, which leads to greater alertness. It is literally the complete opposite of what you want to do. This is when Sasha Stevens, quote, trying to fall asleep is a little like pushing really hard against a door which needs to be pulled, finally made perfect sense to me. Sasha Stevens from this book. You simply can't try too hard to lose awareness at the same time, because if you try to accomplish something, you will want to be aware to know whether you've actually accomplished it. Exactly. This insight helped me to learn that my trying was all for naught and that I should stop trying. And once I stopped trying, sleep came easier. You know, this is a super nice way of describing in detail why trying to sleep leads to the opposite. Super, super helpful. And by the way, if you think we're done, we're not. There's more. There is more from Samuel. In fact, I when I read the second email where he kind of clarified things, I thought this was even better. So he said a couple more things. Regarding number one, I think it is very common for people who struggle with sleep to worry about sleep a lot throughout the day to the point where it starts affecting the decisions they make. However, if you're mindful, then you can learn how to notice that you're struggling with a thought and let go of it and then return to the present moment. Learning to live in the present moment turns out to be a great way to reduce sleep worry and really worry of any kind. And living in the present moment allows you to live your life to the fullest with no more wandering throughout life, stuck in your head, ruminating or daydreaming. I think it's especially important to reduce worrying that happens during the day as it decreases anticipatory anxiety before bed. And this is probably the reason why you recommend people who struggle with sleep to go out and do something fun. Absolutely. Number two, learn to enjoy the night. This helps me more than I expected. I like to read in bed before going to sleep. For some reason, this helps me to view the bed as a more relaxing place. Also, even though Guy Meadows does not want people who can't fall asleep to get out of bed, I still think this can be helpful if you're frustrated. Just get up and do something fun to distract yourself. I like playing my Game Boy. For those of you who don't know what a Game Boy is, that was huge back in the day. Anyway, or just reading, it's a game, Finally, I forgot to mention, I no longer take any supplements in order to sleep. I'm definitely in a much better place than when I last emailed you. First of all, Samuel, thanks again for sharing this. And there were just kind of a couple things that I want. Yeah. The big one, I think I actually have just one big one to comment on. You can tell that Samuel has been doing really well with mindfulness and living in the present. And we hear those things, we hear that all the time. You got to live in the present, enjoy this moment. Today's not promised to anyone, things of that nature. It's easy to think that you can just decide to do that. I'm gonna just live in the present. It's not like that. Mindfulness, as you can tell from Samuel, takes practice. It is work. It is exercise. He was already very well versed in mindfulness before he read this book by Guy Meadows. But this shows to me more than, it's a little bit of a unique success story here, because in Samuel's case, it's really like ACT has really helped him, which is great. I'm so happy that we have a little bit of a different success story here than the more common ones, where it's been more kind of traditional CBT, if you will, or the things I talk about here. But that shows to me that ACT works, but it is work. I think generally speaking, using mindfulness and ACT is, for most people, it is a little bit harder. It takes more practice than kind of the set it and forget it method I talk about, but it can be really, really helpful, really effective. So again, super grateful for this, Samuel. And anyone that has a comment, please leave that here. And with that said, I'll be back again on Monday. Until then, take it easy.